What's up, y'all? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's talk, review, get into the things, discuss Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. This is season 2, and I'm going to be discussing episodes 6 through 8. All right, so let's get into it. All right, y'all. So I'm going to do what I did last time, which is just talk about each girl and let that be that because that video was only an hour long and I feel like that sufficed for 3 episodes. Okay. So let's talk about it. So, first up, Miranda. Again, girl, why you here? Like, I get why, but like she really didn't say much in these 2 episodes other than, feeling bad for Whitney when the girls took a vote on whether or not to let her back into MomTok. And then when Taylor was trying to get the group against Demi, and Miranda was like, that's kind of messed up what you're doing. Other than that, she really didn't do much these past 3 episodes. So I'm just like, if she does come back for season 3, because I did see that they are currently filming for season 3, I hope that she's more vocal because it does seem like Miranda. I don't want to say she's the voice of reason, but she has very reasonable takes about the things that are happening around her. And because she doesn't have any allegiance to anyone, they feel non biased. It feels very much like I'm just observing what's happening, and y'all look, this too much. This is too much. Even when they got down to playing like the truth game, Miranda was like, okay, I'm a little scared. And then when Whitney and Michaela got into it at the table, she was like, this is deep. Like, this is way deeper than what I thought it was going to be. This is a lot. So I do hope she comes back for a season 3. And again, I hope she is more vocal with her opinion. So let's talk about Jen. So episode 6 opens up, and Whitney goes over to Jen's house because she's been trying to get in contact with her because Whitney and Jen were supposed to ride to the airport together so that they could fly down with the rest of the ladies to Arizona for Macy's pickleball event. Well, Jen is not responding to Whitney, and Whitney's getting concerned. So next thing you know, Whitney pulls up to the house, and you can tell that Jen is visibly like distraught. The house is in disarray, and Whitney's like, "Girl, what's going on here? Okay, like what's happening?" And so Jen basically lets it be known that she thinks she's suffering from prenatal depression. She starts crying. Whitney consoles her. And then in the confessional, she basically says that she's been feeling suicidal. She was like, she was in the car with Zach. Something got into her. I think they got into a really bad fight because we seen how he talked to her when he get mad at her. And she starts like having thoughts of like, maybe I don't want to be here anymore. And so next thing you know, she is in the confessional breaking down. And so then Whitney ends up asking her, so what do you want me to do? Like, what do I need to do to help you in this moment? And she was just like, I don't know. So then Whitney's like, are you going to come on the trip with us to Arizona? And she was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, okay, that's understandable. So Whitney's like, what do you want me to tell the women since you're not coming on the trip? And she's like, just tell them that I'm pregnant. That's not a lie because I am pregnant. And she's like, okay. So then in a nice gesture, Whitney starts to clean up for her. Continuing in episode 6, we actually have this moment where Zach and the kids go into Jen's, like their master bedroom, and Zach is like, are you okay? And Jen just starts crying. And then the screen goes black, and they basically tell us that out of respect for Jen and her privacy, they decided to stop filming with her so that she could deal with her mental health. So then episode 7, we see Zach go over to Whitney and Connor's house, and they're getting ready for the Mormon Bake Off because they're going to Friendsgiving that Leila is hosting. And Leila did invite Jen, even though she kind of had some like trepidation where she was like, I don't know, but she was like, I want this to be open to everybody. So then Whitney is like, is Jen gonna come? Because Zach pulls up to the house, and she's like, she's been reaching out to Jen, but she hasn't really gotten a response. And so Zach is like, no, I don't think we're gonna go. She's still feeling sick. And then Zach tries to bring up how like 90% of the time after Jen is hanging out with the girls, she comes back home crying, talking about how the girls are mean to her, how they're bullying her. He then brings up Leila and Michaela, saying that he feels like they're basically followers, pretty much, and they're followers of Demi and Jesse, and they really don't have any issues with her, but they just want to be cool with them because they're the loudest in the group. Then he brings up Demi, saying that he feels like Demi has skeletons in her closet and Jen knows about him, and that's why she behaves the way she does towards Jen. And then he goes on to say that, Demi also sent them a cease and desist. Here's the thing. I don't know if I believe the cease and desist, because I'm like, y'all put everything on the internet. Why has no one gotten me a screenshot of a cease and desist? Like, give us the tea. And I even saw a clip. I think they were doing like an interview where Jen brought it up about the cease and desist, and Demi was like, well, show me the proof. Show me the proof. And all Jen could say was like, well, I heard. So you heard that she might send a cease and desist, but she never sent one to you. So I was like, girl, see, that's the issue. That's an issue. I also don't like how Zach is trying to act like her mental state is not your fault. Like, the reason why Jen is going through what she's going through, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, is because she feels trapped in this marriage. She's 26, 25 years old with 3 kids, married to a man that treats her like crap and really doesn't take accountability for his behavior, and she doesn't know what life will be like without him. She wants a divorce, but she's scared to get a divorce. That's why she cried about that baby, because she was like, okay, I can probably handle being a single mom of 2 but not of 3. Her whole thing being like, I'm not the person I want to be, is because she doesn't want to be attached to him. She don't like that man no more because he treats her like garbage. Okay. And Zach trying to act like it's just the women that's the issue. It's not just them. Yes, they have been kind of mean to Jen, but also Jen is a liar. And the whole conversation about like it's an edit and like the women should give Jen more compassion because of what she's going through. Yes, they should, but also Jen needs to not lie. Like, girl, you are like, you're telling people one thing, then when they get to meet the other person that you're telling the story about and they get into these same rooms with each other and they start comparing notes, you come out to be a liar. And Jen does the same thing that Zach does to her, to the women, where when she has legitimate gripes with Zach starts to gaslight her into being like, well, you're the problem and I already taken accountability to that, and where have I ever did this to you? She does the same thing to the women. So if I'm gonna get irritated with Zach doing it to her, I'm gonna get irritated when she does it to the women, because girl, you are being caught in lies. Like, I hope she does get the courage eventually to leave the relationship, because he the reason why your mind that way. And the ketamine therapy and all that stuff, that's not real therapy. Therapy, and I mean, well, let me not say that. I don't think that's the best. That's a better way. I don't think that's the best therapy for 2 people that got married extremely young, that really need to sit down and really sift out what they want their relationship to be for the next couple of years, if they're going to continue to stay with each other. Because Jen's mental state is going to continue to get worse, because it doesn't seem like Zach spends enough time with them children. The way that he was trying to put deodorant on that little girl, and I'm like, she's like 3. Why are you putting deodorant on a 3-year-old? Little kids don't stink like that, for real, for real. A quick bath and they smell good again. And I'm like, okay. Also, why was that house dirty when you're an able-bodied adult? Like, why are you not picking up after these kids? And that leads me to believe that Jen is doing everything and she's tired. She's burnt out, and now it's like her body's burnt out, but now her mind is. And I just need them to go to actual therapy if they're gonna try to stay together. I also saw that they did an interview with the Veil Files. He threw her under the bus again by saying that she basically trapped him, saying that she removed her IUD without telling him, and that's how they got her like pregnant with the second baby. And then, like, when you look at the pictures in the article, and I really didn't read the article in its entirety, I just skimmed through it. They have a picture of them on the interview, and they're not even sitting next to each other. Whereas when we've seen other people like Britt and Demi do theirs, they were on each other. I've seen other couples go on there, even like friends go on there, and they're closer than what Jen and Zach were. And I'm not saying I'm a body language expert, but if you don't want to be near somebody, you kind of make it known with the energy, and that's what it seemed like in that interview. So I just want her to get away from that man and get her mind together. Okay.
So
I figured it out, y'all. It's not my microphone, it's my iPad. My iPad determines whether or not it wants to be compatible with my microphone when it feels like it. But we gonna continue. So Layla is an opportunist and she's a follower. And I don't care what anybody says, because I've seen a lot of people bring up her age. She's 23 years old. Yeah, I get that, but that doesn't negate the fact that she's a follower and an opportunist. So, and she likes to perform in front of whoever is in front of her. I need her to go to therapy. So when the girls get to Arizona, everybody's wondering where Jen is at. And Whitney finally tells them Jen is pregnant. Layla blurts out, "Oh, so a band-aid baby." And I'm like, why would you say that? Mind you, I don't really see it for Jen, but I'm just like, there was no need for you to say that other than you're performing in front of these women. So that was bad. So then as the episode continues, we actually see Demi and Taylor get into it at the second night of dinner, and they're arguing. Taylor feels like Demi is on a high horse and has a big ego, and Demi feels like Taylor has the same feeling, like she feels the same way about Taylor that Taylor feels about her. And so they're going back and forth, and then next thing you know, Layla jumps into it, and Taylor basically tells Layla, "Girl, sit there and eat your food. Like, ain't nobody talking to you, and when I'm finished speaking, then you can speak." And Layla was gagged. Layla was like, "Oh." And I said, "Yeah, girl, shut up." Like, no one was speaking to you, and Demi was doing fine. There was no need for you to try to like stick up for Demi. Like, there was just no need for that. Like, it wasn't, there was no need. So then episode 7, we get to Layla and Demi getting their hair done at the hair salon, and we find out that Cam and Layla are at odds right about now. They got into a big fight, and she doesn't know if he's going to come to Friendsgiving. She really wants him to come because she's tired of going to these events by herself, and she was like, finally she has an opportunity to go with somebody, and he might not show up to her event. So um Demi and her are talking. Demi talks about how she feels like there's some weirdness between her and Taylor, and it feels awkward, like she's projecting onto her relationship and all of that stuff. And next thing you know, Layla is just like agreeing with whatever Demi is saying, like, "Yeah, you're right." Like, yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, so you conform to whoever is in front of you," because then in episode 8, we see her do the same thing with Taylor. So episode 7, she has a conversation with Cam. What it boils down to is Layla is the prettiest girl that Cam is with, and she's mixed, and he don't know what to do with it. Also, Layla has trust issues due to her ex-husband cheating on her and being a child of divorce, and she's like, everyone always leaves her. But ultimately, to me, I really feel like Cam is like, I got this really pretty girl with me, she's mixed, and I don't know how this is happening. And honestly, maybe Cam is a Utah 10, but if he was here in North Carolina, no, no. I mean, he seems like a nice dude and all, but I'm just like, Layla, you do know you got options. That's why I was just like, girl, go out there in them streets. Like, y'all are a hop, skip, and a jump away from California. You not gonna tell me Layla wouldn't rack up with the men out in California, or here where I'm at in North Carolina, or in Virginia, DC, New York. Like, girl, you got options. And you're just like, you got options. Girl, go to Texas. You would make a killing in Texas. But they cry it out. He says he loves her. She says she loves him. And now that she knows that that's something that she does, she's going to work on it. I said, go to therapy. So they have Friendsgiving, things go off pretty well. And then the next day, episode 8, is 2 days after Friendsgiving, and Taylor's at the CMAs. She decides to get on the internet and blast everybody for not liking her Instagram post. We end up seeing Taylor and Layla go to New York together because they're in a campaign. When I tell you, all I have in my notes is Layla is a follower and this is loser behavior, because while Taylor and her are doing the brand deal, doing the photo shoot, she's talking about how she's going to have Taylor's back when Taylor confronts Demi, because after Taylor outed at like her feelings, saying that nobody liked her video or liked her Instagram post, and Taylor's followers were attacking them, Demi got pissed. And then Taylor ended up sending an apology message in the group chat, and then Demi responded by saying, "Girl, this ain't good enough, and hopefully you learn from this, because that was really messed up." So Leila was like, "Oh, I'll have your back when you confront Demi because I think she's doing too much." Then when they're on the private jet flying home to Utah, Leila takes it upon herself to show a group chat that has everybody else in it except for Whitney, Taylor, and Jen. And they were all talking poorly about her, mainly Jesse and Demi. And I was like, what was the reason for you to show that group chat other than for you to try to prove your loyalty to somebody? And I'm just like, girl, that was nasty. Like, you not to be trusted. You're an opportunist and a follower. Because then when we have Demi and Taylor confronting each other, Taylor is looking for Leila to speak up because Demi is really going at Taylor because Taylor started this argument with her and Leila just sitting there like a deer caught in headlights. And I said, so you're a follower and you scary. Horrible combination. If Leila comes back next season, girl, I need you to get a backbone and actually think for yourself because I've been feeling like she's a follower since she did that sit down interview with Jesse for page 6. Because anytime she says she doesn't like somebody, it's off the strength of somebody else. What are these people specifically doing to you? And it seems like nothing. I can't do it. So next, let's talk about Jessie. That's a messy lady right there. She loves being in the mess, especially if it doesn't have anything to do with you. So first, when they get to Arizona on episode 6, she's wondering if Jen's gonna come because she's like, she's probably not gonna come because of her and Demi, but she still wants to talk to Jen. She also kind of feels bad for her now that she knows that she's pregnant. We then see on the first night of the dinner that she brings out the truth box. The last time they brought out the truth box, it got nasty, and it did get kind of nasty with them. So one of the questions was about her husband's, penis, and she actually shows video proof that he has an 8-inch dick because they measured it with a tape ruler. I said, girl, never that deep. We then have her and Demi. So one of the questions was like, Jesse, did you feel some type of way about Demi being willing to take a bigger contract if that meant that you weren't a part of the show? So Demi's like, well, I guess we're gonna have to talk about it. So what it boils down to is pretty much Demi and Jesse weren't in a good place. I guess like they weren't sure if Jesse was gonna be a part of the show or not, or they were still having her on the table of whether or not they wanted to include her. So Demi and her husband Brent, I guess Jesse was like, they were on a like 3-way call with like a manager and something else, and Jesse was like, she heard Brent and was like, I don't want to have this conversation if he's going to be a part of this. Demi and Jesse weren't in a good place at the time, so Demi was down for her not being a part of the show if that meant she got more money, but they said that they were able to work through it. Demi feels like Jesse would have been fine because she has like a multi-million-dollar like hair empire with her salons, so she felt like it was kind of selfish that she wanted more money. And I'm like, girl, that's not your choice to make. Now, granted, do I get where Demi's coming from? Yeah, like, girl, you already making money. If that means that I can make more money with you not being a part of the show, I'm cool with it. Like I said, I don't think they're friends, but it does leave a sour taste in your mouth where it's like, girl, you are willing to kick your friend off, whether she has $1 million or not. Why is it selfish of her to make more money? So hater, okay, Demi, it's giving hater. All right. So they kind of moved past it and they push on, but you can tell that Jesse is still kind of bothered by it, but also Jesse don't be speaking up. She don't speak up. So then we see at the dinner later on episode 6 when Taylor and Demi were getting into it, Jesse's feelings again get hurt by Demi because Taylor was like, if you're willing to if you're willing to forego your best friend Jesse to be on the show, why would I not believe that you would do it with anybody else? And Demi was like, I wouldn't do that to you because she knows the draw to the show for a lot of the followers of Taylor, because Taylor has over 4 million followers, were to this show was going to be Taylor and the whole swinging scandal. So in her mind, Jesse is expendable because it's like, girl, no one literally knows you. And Jesse and Leila have this the smallest fan base. Like when you look on TikTok, everybody else except Jesse and Leila have 1 million followers, you know? So Jesse's feelings got hurt because she was like, not you saying that I'm expendable. But then we see a sit down between Jesse and Taylor when the girls get back from dinner where they're talking about jealousy and competition, and Taylor feeling like Demi is jealous and she's very competitive. And I'm looking at Jesse like, okay, so you have issues with Demi, but you're not speaking up, because why would you entertain this conversation with somebody that you can tell has issues with your quote unquote best friend? Like, if you have issues with Demi, tell her, instead of just laughing in her face and making it seem like everything is okay. So we move over to the scene with Demi and Jesse on episode 7, where they're talking about Britt's penis and him getting the varicose veins removed from his penis. I was like, it's a lot of penis talk, because on episode 6, we find out that Demi and Britt have been trying for 4 years for her to get pregnant. She had a horrible time doing IVF, and like, she really wants to have a baby. Okay. Because I think they have stepchildren together, and maybe, I don't know, do they have one child together? They never really divvied out that. I think they might have one kid together. Possibly, but I'm not totally sure. But she's like, she really wants to have a child with the man that she loves. So they talk about that. We then have Friendsgiving. Nothing really happened there because Jessie and her husband and their kids went to Mexico for Thanksgiving. Then we get down to episode 8, where it is Macy and Jesse's like joint event together, where it's Jay-Z Styles and Baby Mama together, and there's an argument back and forth between Demi, Jesse, and Taylor. In the beginning of the argument, it's Demi and Jesse versus Taylor, because Jesse was telling the truth. Why would you do that? Why would you blast us on the internet just because you were mad that we didn't respond to an Instagram post? Like, that's messed up. And Taylor was trying to justify it, and because she was like, she didn't really feel bad about it, and Jesse was like, how do you not feel bad about that? Then Taylor was like, well, after I talked to Michaela, I realized I was wrong. And Jesse's like, why wouldn't you realize you were wrong in the moment when we were getting bombarded by like your fans? So then Taylor tries to flip the narrative in the argument by throwing Demi under the bus, where she was like, well, you know, she's recommended that I not go to your salon. And now Jesse is feeling deflated because she's like, what do you mean? And so Demi was like, no, I said, I'm not so sure how they do with color, but the hair, like, they style hair just fine. So Taylor's trying to shape the narrative that Demi is purposely telling people not to go to Jesse's salon. So now Jesse and Demi have issues. My thing about it is if your salon doesn't do color well, why is it wrong for her to say, like, I don't know if you should go there for color, but everything else is fine? But I think with the situation that has already happened with Demi and Jesse, where you're telling people that you're okay with her not being a part of the show if you get more money, you're saying that it's selfish for her to, you know, want more money and she has this empire while the rest of y'all don't. I could understand how Jesse could take that as being like, girl, you're a hater and you're supposed to be my best friend. Why are you telling people not to patronize my business or patronize my business, however you say the word? And so Jesse now feels some type of way. So let's talk about Michaela. Michaela is annoying and very unlikable this season. Maybe if they get a season 3, she will become more likable. But like, she was so unlikable this season. Like, her needing to constantly call Whitney out and constantly say derogatory things about her or harp on her was annoying. Granted, I understand the girl found her voice. I hate that she experienced what she experienced as a child, but just because you found your voice doesn't mean you have the ability or get the right to constantly bitch at somebody or put them down. I was waiting this entire season for Whitney to cuss her out. Like, because if I was there and I was Whitney, the way I would have read Michaela her rights and like just dogged her out, because girl, who are you? Like, who are you? And what it boils down to is Michaela is hurt that Whitney takes more interest in trying to rekindle her relationship with Macy than her. But it's like, with the way that you're behaving, you're not worth it if I was Whitney. So they get to Arizona. Like I said, Jessie is messy and she pulls out that truth box. They end up asking Michaela, would you ever rekindle your relationship with Whitney? And she's like, no. And Whitney's like, Okay, fair enough. And it's like, how many times are you going to keep telling her you don't like her? It comes to a point where you're only doing this because you want a certain reaction out of her, and you want her to feel as hurt as you feel at the fact that you feel like she didn't take as much pride in your relationship as you did. So Whitney is just like, okay. Then we have a moment where Whitney and Macy have a conversation in the kitchen about their relationship, and Whitney brings up Michaela, where she's like, are you not wanting to move forward with me off of Michaela, or what it like, or is that the issue between us? Macy ends up telling Whitney, no, we're good. Michaela and Demi were like listening to the conversation. So then when Whitney and Michaela when Whitney and Macy get back to the table, Michaela and her get into it. And when I tell you, Michaela was just going off on Whitney, and Whitney was asking Michaela, like, what am I not taking accountability for? She then ends up asking the table, tell me what it is. Michaela ends up blurting out, nobody wants to be friends with you in this group. And it's like, no, you don't want to be friends with her. Everybody else, for the most part, doesn't really have a big issue with Whitney. They're still trying to fill her out. You're the one that keeps constantly harping on not liking her and wanting to be better than her, and wanting to put her down. And you keep saying it's therapeutic to be bitchy and nasty and petty towards her, but all it's showing is that you still have trauma that you need to work through, and you're not a nice person. Like, you're doing more harm to your reputation, in my opinion, than Whitney has done to her reputation last season, because we didn't see Whitney just go out of her way of being nasty to people. She had moments where she was just being insufferable and an ass, but you have constantly picked at her the entire season. So then they go back and forth, and Whitney's like, girl, what is it that you want from me? And she was like, you need to do some self-reflection. And it's like, I am self-reflecting. Then Demi chimes in and she's like, I think everybody just wants to see the action. You can say that you're self-reflecting, but we want to see the action. So then we get to episode 7, where we find out that Leila's having the Friendsgiving party, and Michaela decides that she wants to make sourdough bread the same way that Whitney is making sourdough bread, because she wants to beat Whitney at the British Bake Off. So Whitney decides that, like, hey, we should do a Mormon Bake Off. So that is what they decide to do. Michaela purposely decides to hire like a baker to help her make the dough, because she wants Whitney to fail. And I said, Macy, you're fake, because Macy was at the house with them making the dough when Michaela was scared to be in a car wash, which is lame as hell. And like, what? She is like laughing and making fun of Michaela, but also when Michaela brings up Whitney, she's just like, yeah, I'm going to make sourdough as well. And then Macy is like, well, yeah, you know, she's making sourdough based off of how I make it. So it's like, you're not really Whitney's friend, girl. You're not really her friend. So then we get to the actual bake off, and Whitney gets third place, Michaela gets second. And so she's just happy that she beat Whitney. And then she was mad at her husband because her husband scored, because the husbands were the judges. He gave Whitney sourdough a 9. And she was like, oh, he's sleeping on the couch tonight. Girl, get over it, Michaela. Ugh. So then we get to episode 8, and nothing really happened with Michaela, other than I was like, all that anger you had towards Whitney, why couldn't you give Taylor the same energy when she posted that post about y'all not liking her Instagram post, and had all them people harassing you and DMing you like death threats and how y'all are horrible people? You got so much energy for Whitney, but you can't have the same energy for Taylor? You're scary. And I feel like the only reason Michaela didn't give Taylor that smoke is because all of them want to still be in Taylor's good graces, because she is the fan favorite and she has the biggest fan base. Because if Whitney would have did the same thing, Michaela would have made a bunch of TikToks and would have been calling that lady anything but a child of God, because she don't like Whitney. Yeah, girl, you only don't like Whitney because everybody else and people online don't like Whitney, and that's lame ass behavior. So let's move over to Macy. Macy does not like Whitney. Last review I did, I said I think Macy likes Whitney, but she doesn't want to lose her relationship with Michaela because Michaela has such a close connection with everybody in the group. These last 3 episodes, no, Macy doesn't like Whitney, and she's too much of a coward to do the same thing that Michaela is doing, because she knows Michaela looks crazy. And Macy is a lot older because I think Macy's 29, Michaela's 24, and Macy understands the optics of her constantly attacking Whitney the same way Michaela has. Because when they do the truth box game, there's a question posed to Whitney where they're like, Whitney, do you regret not going to Macy's event last season? Whitney says no, because she was like, if I would have went to the event, I wouldn't have known now that me and Macy had issues and I wasn't being a good friend. So Macy is taken aback by that because she feels like you should regret it because it hurt me. So then the next morning we see a conversation of Macy and Whitney talking in the kitchen, and the kitchen is like in another room, and Macy starts to cry, Whitney starts to cry, because they start arguing about the situation where Whitney is like, I'm trying to understand where I did wrong, like where did I go wrong, because I thought we were good, but I feel like you're upset about me and what I said. And so Macy was like, I just feel like, why wouldn't you regret not coming to my event knowing that I wanted you there? Whitney is like, nobody wanted me there except you, and it was uncomfortable. And Macy was like, all you had to do was come in, say hi to me, and then leave. And I was the one that was trying to like rally behind you, and you didn't come, and that really hurt my feelings. And so then she starts crying because she was like, I always feel like I'm there for everybody. She talks about how her first child's father died, and she still attended 2 weddings that she was a part of. And so then Whitney starts crying because she was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I think I'm going in the right direction with you guys, but then y'all kind of play in my face pretty much. And she was like, is this because of Michaela? And so Michaela is ear hustling, and she's like, Macy's like, no, I can be friends with you without Michaela. I can move forward with you without that. But now Macy's like, she has her guard up against Whitney because she feels like Whitney should be remorseful for what happened. So then when Michaela and Whitney get into it, Macy doesn't say anything. She just allows Michaela to just bombard Whitney and keep going off on her. And I'm like, even if you say you're moving forward, you would have checked Michaela and been like, okay. Especially when Michaela blurted out, nobody in this group wants to be friends with you. You would have been like, well, no, I still want to work on a relationship with her. But you didn't do that. Then when they get back to Utah, Macy is fine with Michaela dogging out Whitney and making fun of her. You were fine with the baker being there and like helping her. And it's just kind of like, you don't like Whitney. And you should just say you don't like her. I would respect you even more if you would just say you don't like her. But like I said, Macy's not going to do that because eventually it looks bad. Like in the beginning of the season, Michaela saying snarky stuff about Whitney wasn't that bad the first 2 episodes. But 10 episodes, like, 10 episodes in and you still talking shit. Yeah, you pressed. And it doesn't look good for you. We also find out that Macy and her husband are doing an IVF journey. They didn't tell anybody, but we now know that congrats to her. She is pregnant. She has the event with Jesse, and she's kind of taken aback about the drama that's unfolding between Demi and Taylor. She also feels like, she doesn't know if she can trust Demi now that the information has come out about, the whole thing about Jesse and Demi wanting more money. But I feel like they're not being honest with each other when it comes to that situation. And I'll expound upon that more when we get to Demi in that situation. But yeah, I just feel like I would respect Macy more if she would just admit that she don't like Whitney. Because trying to act like you that girl's friend, knowing that she wants to be cool with you guys, and you allow Michaela to just speak so ill of her, it's also not a good look to you, because it's like, can you really trust her? And to come to find out that you was in a group chat with everybody except for Taylor, Jen, and Whitney, and y'all was talking cash money ish about Taylor, but you supposed to be Taylor's friend. Yeah, Macy, you not to be trusted either. That's why I say ain't none of these girls really friends like that. So Whitney, I don't really have much to say about Whitney because I tapped upon it all with Michaela and Macy segments. But what I will say is Demi and Whitney becoming friends, I think is going to be a good thing. And the reason why I say that is a lot of people don't like Whitney and a lot of people don't like Demi as it states right now. But one thing I have seen when it comes to reality stars is y'all will hate them into success. And I feel like Demi will check Whitney and Whitney will check Demi, because Whitney even noticed, she was like, Demi does have a tendency to go too far. And I think Demi will listen to Whitney and vice versa. And I feel like that is going to be like the nail in the coffin for some of the girls on this show, because if Whitney and Demi team up, I feel like they could really run this show if they really felt like it. And that's just my opinion. You may feel differently. I know a few of y'all will feel differently. But I'm just like, Whitney even said that Demi was doing a lot when it came to the text messages, but she understood. And then when it came down to Demi and Taylor arguing, Whitney was the one that was like, girl, okay, everything's out there. The CMAs has happened. How do we move forward? And I feel like Whitney and Demi understand this reality TV game better than the rest of the girls. I feel like a lot of the girls are moving with TikTok lenses, and that's what's going to get them in trouble. Because I was like, y'all want to kick Whitney and Demi off the show, not understanding that without them, we don't really have anything to talk about. I don't care about Jen in that toxic relationship. Honestly, I don't want to see it because it's uncomfortable. Okay. I don't want to hear Taylor crying about Dakota. Every single episode we have had, she has been breaking down in tears. I'm over it. Go to therapy, learn some self-worth. You are 31 years old, lady. Grow up. You got 3 kids. Get it together. Then you have Michaela. Michaela wouldn't even have a storyline without Whitney. You have Macy. I mean, Macy is great. She kind of like the Bethany Frankel of this group. She's monetizing things outside of this show, but she ain't really adding nothing. Jesse is messy, but after a while, the mess gets old because what has Jesse really told us about her life? Then you have Leila. She's a follower. Miranda is just there. So I'm like, y'all want to get rid of the girls who bring the drama, the girls who bring the zest and the spice to the show, and you going to cancel a good thing. But I think, again, Whitney and Demi realize that this is reality TV and they're going to work this in their advantage. And I'm interested to see how this is going to look, okay? I really, again, wish Whitney would have cussed Michaela out because I was sick of her after a while. So let's talk about Demi. Honestly, unpopular opinion, I don't get why she's getting so much hate, to be honest. I was waiting to see something that she did that was so egregious. Like, don't get me wrong. Her wanting Jesse not to get on the show was hater behavior. It was. It was definitely hater behavior. But it wasn't enough for me to, like, understand how much venom and vitriol people are sending her way. Even when it came to the argument that her and Taylor had, I was on Demi's side. Like, bitch, you're not going to try to throw me under the bus and me not check you and tell you about yourself. Because Taylor does that. When Taylor gets mad, she likes to throw people under the bus and expose them. But then when they have something to say about her, oh my gosh, why are you being so nasty towards me? Then shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Now, do I think Demi possibly cheated on her husband? Yeah. Do I think Brent cheated? Yeah, based off of the way that he reacted. Do I care? Not really, because most of these men I don't like, okay? Demi's 30 and that man is 51 years old. And then that People magazine coming out saying that he knew her when she was 9, that's concerning. That is terrifying. The same thing with Michaela. You're 16 messing around with a 21-year-old. I have sympathy for you and I'm worried about your mental state. All right. So I'm not even going to sit here and act like I don't think that happened. But I don't understand why people are that mad at her. Even with her saying to Taylor, like, girl, I don't think you should go to Jesse's hair salon for color, but everything else is fine. Taylor wanted to make it so bad, and already Jesse has negative feelings about Demi that she just accepted it. I was really expecting her to say something like really egregious, and maybe I'll see that in episode 8. No, well, I've already episode 8, episode 9 or 10. But as it states right now, she not that bad. Is she the villain? Yeah. She is. But I'm going to let y'all know, this is still like 101 of villainry when it comes to reality show. And I may just be someone who has just consumed so much reality TV that I'm just like, it's power for the course. Like, it is what it is. It's a reality show. I'm not going to hate these people and I don't know them. The parasocial relationships that a lot of y'all have with these women is weird. It is. It really is. But yeah, Demi's ego got too big. And that's just what it is. Her ego got too big, and her saying that Taylor is a liability, I agree. And I wouldn't want to be friends with Taylor. I would be very weary of being friends with Taylor. The moment you get mad at somebody, you expose them and you weaponize 4 million people against them. Yeah, no. I wouldn't want to be cool with you either. And then, but I do think Demi has a tendency to take things she I won't say take them too far, but she don't know when to let stuff go. Her being all up in them comments, girl, I wouldn't have said nothing to them people. I would have paid them dust. Now them DMing you is another thing. You know what I mean? I just feel like Taylor wanted to humble Demi. It worked because she has a bigger following and people don't really see it for Demi right about now. But Taylor's behavior to me was atrocious when it came to that CMA situation. And lastly, Taylor. Taylor is exhausting. I don't think there was not one episode of her not crying. And I was over it. I was so over it. Her still sleeping with Dakota, knowing that y'all are not in a healthy relationship, then trying to be like, but his sobriety, yeah. Stop sleeping with him. If you want to have a healthy co-parenting relationship, then do that. I think it was really sweet that all of the men, well, I won't say all of the men, Britt and Connor, who Britt being Demi's husband and Connor being Whitney's husband, telling her that she is worthy of love, worthy of being with someone that cares about her. She's worthy of her feelings. I thought that was a very sweet and kind moment. And I like that moment. But I'm going to need this to be the last season where Taylor is crying about her self-worth. It's starting to feel like she's like Shannon Bedore from Real Housewives of Orange County, where she's like such this wounded bird where people don't really call her out when she does some bull, because her weaponizing the CMAs against her group of friends was nasty. Granted, I understand her wanting them to like her post and giving her like props, but if they texted you and they acknowledged it, why do you need them to like your post? Why? And that to me says you have an unhealthy obsession with the likes and the comments that you get. So I do see the downfall of Taylor coming, because eventually people are going to get tired of that. And that's why I feel like people aren't looking at this show with reality TV lens. I've been watching this show for watching reality TV long enough to know that the fan favorite eventually falls, and they fall hard. And right now that is Taylor. You know, she built MomTok off her back, which I'm not taking away from her, but eventually, girl, people are going to be like, that's all you got. Because even though they're like, this is MomTok, this is a sisterhood, it's not. This is a business. And y'all aren't going to be able to just kick people off the show the way y'all think you are. Just because they don't get along with Taylor does not mean that they're not going to be on this show. It's just, it is what it is. Her and Dakota need to stay broken up. They need to stop sleeping together. Dakota's friend Gavin was talking real truth, where he says your son or your child deserves a whole father, not one that's breaking down and downtrodden. The boy done lost 40 pounds being with Taylor. Taylor looks disheveled and downtrodden. She can't get rid of him, you know, messing around with Jenna. And I said, at this point, y'all don't need to be together, and I'm sick of hearing it. Come season 3, I don't want to hear this no more, Taylor. I don't. But that's all I got for you guys. As always, remember to be really authentic. Definitely hop down in the comments below. And you know what? Subscribe. All right. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.